What's up, world? It's yours truly, the Gap Tooth Guru of Gumbo, back at it once again in the studio here at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time every Thursday night. Gumbo Talk Show. That's the Gumbo Talk on Facebook, Instagram. The Gumbo Talk Show on Facebook. Cool Rashidi on Twitter. And, of course, the same on Facebook for personal page. Thank y'all. I appreciate everybody that's listening. I want to say that I have a lot of stuff on my mind tonight and the next coming days, but I promise I'm going to share something about it here real soon because I get to do something that I haven't got to do in a long time coming up next week. So I'm going to be doing some streaming from some remote locations, but we're going to still get it done with the talk show on Thursday next week. Listen, I realize that you have a whole lot of stuff you could be doing right now other than listening to this live, or you might be listening to the recording. But I really do mean it when I say thank you for tuning in, because the audience that I've had and the audience that I now have is an expanded one, put it like that. And I am grateful for the people who are still watching and listening across wherever, not only the country, the globe, family and friends, but you, whether you're new tonight or this is, the second, third, 150th. I don't even know how many shows I have. I stopped counting. I've got them all saved. And I plan to very soon put them on YouTube so that there's some kind of journal, if you will, in video and audio of these shows. We've had some doozies. Last week, we really had a good talk as we progress from what men need from women and what women need from men, whatever, and then back to when we were talking about focusing the week prior and how we got to get things in order like an elemental table, to whatever we're going to talk about next week. I'm going to continue to give you topics that I think are great discussion points from this point forward. I am trying to influence people to start really being open-minded and thinking. I'm really tired of folks always wanting to find something to walk lockstep in instead of finding ways for you to be unique and different. And with that being said, tonight's topic is all the jewels and no tools. What do you have that gives you what it takes? I'm sure you're not surprised that you have a lot of interactions with people who on the surface seem like they really have it together. They look the part, they act the part, and it appears that everything they say is exactly what you wanted to hear. And then you find out later, whether it's sooner or later, that all that was a fraud, okay? Then you got people who show and prove on every hand, but their intention is unclear. I hope that by the end of the episode tonight that we all have a better understanding of what it means to work with jewels and tools. Now, I remember back in the 80s, my dad, Willie Joe Johnson, God rest his soul, was the president of the Quad Cities Golf Club out of the Quad Cities in Illinois. This is pretty much made up of a few cities on the Illinois and on the Iowa sides of the Mississippi River, western Illinois, northwestern Illinois. And there were quite a few Black folks altogether in our community, especially on the Iowa side, because Iowa being like a state that was like 99% white, out of all of the Black people in Iowa, 90% of them lived in eastern Iowa. And it was quite interesting to see all these Black guys golfing. Not that I didn't think it was weird, I grew up with it, right? But as I look back on it, I thought, hey, how interesting it was to have a golf club. But it was cool. It was hip. Everybody wanted to play golf. It was like, I learned I was more like your Happy Gilmore type of guy. My dad could play golf. He had all kinds of golf clubs. I still have a couple of sets of his golf clubs. I just have them. I don't golf. But my dad was like a foot and a half shorter than me too. And so it was like, it just wasn't my thing. Plus his clubs were good for me when I was young. But anyway, the point I'm saying is I grew up in a great situation. I mean, even though I was an only child, when I got to go into town and see other Black folks, because I grew up in a predominantly white community, right? And I'm going somewhere with this because we're talking about the Jews with no tools. My parents instilled in me quite a few Jews, as well as the community I lived in. And I knew how society worked at a very young age. I had extremely useful and applicable tools bestowed upon me by my dad and my mom and my community to help me understand how the socio-demographics of the world are and were. This knowledge that I had as a young person, mixed with the fact that my parents gave me all kinds of things to work with to figure out the dexterity and the proper use of things, mostly toys, right? But they taught me how things work. And I used to tear apart stuff. They used to burn up stuff too. And I used to know what was going on with things. My parents afforded me that opportunity to have jewels and tools in my life. So I've been able to meet and befriend people who never had the opportunity to have tools that would make it easier for them to circumnavigate this thing we call life. And without those tools, doesn't mean that they hadn't become successful. It just meant that I saw them with my own eyes, people without the tools, because these are either friends or close associates. I saw them struggle with certain things that I thought, because of my background, would have been things that you would have learned perhaps in second grade, maybe even by kindergarten. But everybody isn't privy to the tools, or having the tools available to them, whether it's being able to talk, whether it's being able to swing a hammer, or whether it's able to hold a scalpel or set a mathematic algorithm for some form of electrical conduction of some kind of motherboard, or it could be the wielding of a needle or a seamstress or whatever trade, learn how to mix metals and make metals weld together, whatever, plumbing, woodworking, forgery, not like forgery, forging. What was it called? I said forgery. Is it still called forgery? When they, it's in the forge. Somebody knows. I ain't perfect, but you know what I'm talking about. The people that work with the metal, they're forgers. But are they forgery? No, no, I'm not trying to make them criminals, but y'all get what I'm going. You got all these trades, right? And some people learn them really well and they know the craft, and some people kind of let's just take it lightly, right? They just kind of go through it. But everybody is at a different phase. I know people who never really went outside to play, right? But they read all the books and they know everything about everything, but except for how it really comes together. They're almost like what you call, they grew up engineers. I think we used to call them nerds or whatever when we were young. I was a mix, I really wasn't anything. I never really fit in anywhere. Yeah, I was fat, but I never really fit in anywhere. Well, I just didn't. I could fit in, but I just never felt like my piece of the puzzle was tight, right? But you got people that have both. You got people that have tools. You got people that have jewels. But I submit to you that it's worse to have the tools and not know how to use them than to not have them and have knowledge. That is very, very dangerous. That's my opinion. But I think that if you just know how to swing a hammer, right? Let's just talk carpentry a little bit. My dad was a carpenter. If you know how to swing a hammer and hit that nail every time, that's great. That's going to be efficient. That's going to save us a ton of time in labor because you know what you're doing using the tool. But if you don't understand that if you're building a structure, the placement of a nail in the wood is also important. Because you can know how to hit a nail, but you don't know what it takes to get from the floor studs that connect to the wall studs and the king and jack stud for doors and so on and so forth. And then how those things hold up this thing we call the roof, right? And then the roof being able to hold up, if you're from Illinois, to snow. If you have a heavy snow load on the roof. All these things you need to know in building. And if all you know is just how to use the tools, but you don't have the jewels, that would be very, very detrimental to whoever decides to use that structure. That's why I say it's important tonight that I said all the jewels and no tools is because we all can learn. Let's just say that. Some of us are slower than others, but we all have the ability to learn. Are we really going to just take what we've been given thus far and be satisfied with it? Or are we going to try to grow what we have to be fruitful and multiply? I'm so sick of people in the same place. I know people, man, oh, y'all. I remember one time I went back to Natchitoches, and there was this guy that everybody from Natchitoches knows that back in the day used to sell nickel bags. And when you couldn't get good weed from other places, you knew that he didn't have the best weed, but he had weed. And all he sold was nickel bags. So you could get a real skimpy blunt, or a couple of joints out of his nickel bag. Really just a fat joint. And years later, I went back, and I'd be damned if this guy was still selling nickel bags. Now, people that went to Northwestern in the 90s know exactly who I'm talking about. But he had no growth, and he wanted to hang and talk. No. You have to begin to spend time more with people who you feel will help you grow. I encourage you to get very intimate with people that you can grow with. Sometimes you have to carry folks, sometimes children, but you have to carry people who aren't growing at a fast pace, if you will, or are too immature to be able to handle things right now. Now. Having said that, when we come to this thing about your jewels, you have to not only focus on what it is that you want to be and get close to people who are like-minded, and get a good understanding with each other. It makes it easier for when you get to the point where you're going to have to make what you're learning and what you're doing applicable. And not just applicable to you. I heard it said very well today. You have a community. You already have a community that you're responsible for. Now, this isn't my words, but the man said that your community is who you are now, who you are tomorrow, and who you want to be. Now, I've heard who you were, who you are, and who you want to be, but I hadn't heard it of who you are tomorrow, and who you want to be, because that is thinking forward, right? We talked last week, or was the week before that, we talked about failing forward, right? And I think it was 2 weeks ago. Yeah, we talked failing forward. That was after the focus thing, when we talked about the top of the show. That was after focusing. That was after. That was the one I skipped. So failing forward, you're talking about how when you feel like you're falling down, you're really moving forward. As a matter of fact, when people do long jump or triple jump, when you fall, you should want to fall forward. You definitely don't want to fall backwards. I should have brought that up when we were talking about that fail forward thing. But at any rate, if you're going to be knowledgeable in all these things intellectually, right, and you're going to put yourself in position with people who are like-minded, you're going to have to rely on people. You've got to team up with people. You've got to build a mastermind group. You have to do this because when it comes to time, when you got all these jewels, right, that you learned, that tea from Bodacious is good here in Henderson. When you got all that lined up and you got these people with you on your team, when it comes time to learn or start using things applicable to your life and your community, not only the you now, tomorrow, and in the future, but the people that are around you. There's people you're responsible for. There's people that depend on you as well. And you're not going to get away from that. But you can understand your role in that much better when you learn how to use tools. And the great thing about you getting closer to people who have a like mind, they may have knowledge on the usefulness of a tool different than what somebody else was, or even yourself. And it'll make it easier for you to move from the intellectual to the architectural. We, I'm assuming, are all that are watching, listening, or whatever to this podcast, we all are creatives. Some of us more creative than others. My son, Corbin Delano Johnson, he has my middle name and last name. I didn't want to name him Junior. But Corbin, he don't like school so much. He's doing better at school, but he's just an average student. You talk to him in a conversation, you are not dealing with an 8-year-old. He already knows how to manipulate. He already knows how to vie for doing less work for more pay. He's he's already got certain jewels in him. But Corbin is an artist. This boy can draw. And I mean for real, draw. He doesn't like to trace. He likes to look at the picture and then draw what he sees. And he's getting better. I think at one time in life, many of us were looking for everything from someone. And that is simply not possible. It's not possible. I know some people want to argue, is it probable? Maybe. Possible? I just don't believe so. Now, I've seen the impossible made possible. But for all intents and purposes, it's not possible to find the perfect individual. But I submit to you, you've got to have some things that are like unwritten codes built into your DNA for you to be able to decipher and discern people. And if you can get that going, you'd have an A team working for you. And this A team, you remember when, was it Hannibal, Murdoch, BA, Faceman, and I can't remember, Murdoch, was he the crazy one? No, Murdoch wasn't either. Whoever was that crazy one, I forget what his name was. But at any rate, when we would be able to watch that show and see how these folks as a team got down with all their different unique skill sets, right? Making it better, right? Whatever the situation was. It really was attractive because you got an A team working together. Somebody was weak, somebody else was strong. And whatever the case was, it was that way. We've got to work with each other. We can't really believe, I hope that we can't really believe that we got it all. We know it all. We have the solution. And by ourselves. That's not a jewel. That's a lie. That's a deception. We need someone. The world is not enough for us. We need someone. Now, ain't nothing like love with skin on it, but you do need a higher connection, a connection to something bigger than you. Now, I'm not getting into religion in this because I got a lot of religion in me and I'm trying to work on that. But it's more spiritual in thinking about how you're going to be useful with all the knowledge you have to everything around you. And many people who know me, my theme, if you're going to ever pray for me, is $57 million. $57 million in my hands is going to allow me to do everything impactful I believe that's given to me that I need to do in the world. Now, I'm not asking you for the $57 million, but I'm saying if you want to wish anything well on me, and you want to say, hey, I hope you lose weight, yes, that's great. Is there, man, I hope you go get a BBW or whatever these people are going where they got they turning their lips into hips or whatever. I don't know what they're doing. It's something. There the hips into lips, or it's the gut into butt. That's what it is. They turning gut into butt, and more power to them. Hey, whatever floats your boat. But you've got to be real about something, and you got to be true to something. And yourself is a good start, but the team is important so that trust, all that wisdom together, you'll learn how to use things and get better at using them. And I hope it's better to make you a better person. Better in the sense that you now know that you can either trust in someone and rely on them, or better in the sense that you learn that you can do it just as good by yourself. Whatever. I advocate for you to be connected. I advocate for you to figure out every possible way to use the tools that are at your disposal in the most efficient and proper way possible. It was years before I knew that I could do tricks with woodworking and putting screws in holes that were stripped and changing out doorknobs and different things. I just learned a skill today of how to change the headlight bulb quicker than the manufacturer's recommendation on a 2013 Nissan Altima. Usually you got to take off all the bumper and all that, but I learned a tool and a technique that it was a jewel and a tool to get something done in 90 seconds as opposed to 25, 30 minutes. And it's something when you learn how to, because of your knowledge and your skill set. Phone calls because I forgot to turn the thing off. When you learn how to use tools accurately, right, the most efficient way. I didn't know that they have these notches in the, it's a right angle, but it's like a little triangle. They call it a right angle, but it's a little triangle thing you use when you're cutting 2x4s and things. And I didn't know that the square that we used to use, it was thin on one side and fat and wide on the other side. And I never knew that that was the width that you could put up for the width of a stud, both the length and the width of a stud. I didn't know this until like 10, 15 years ago. And I'm thinking, it took me 30 years to figure out that that's what that was for. And all that time I was using the measurements. I know you used to have to keep up with it because a 2x4 is really 3.5. And, and it's really not 2, it's like 1 3/4. It's not 2 inches. It's just, when you learn it, it's a jewel, you learn it. And then when you put it together, because if you think it's a 2x4, it's really not, and you're measuring things as 2x4, you're missing a whole lot of stuff when you get from the floor to the roof. And if you learn how to use these tools more efficiently, that you're learning, and I mean, look at the whole full circle of things. There is such an information age going on right now that you really are hard pressed to not find answers to questions if you know where to research. But like G.I. Joe, knowing where to research is half the battle. And if you don't know where to find out, what to find out, to know, that's going to give you sometimes false information. So the good thing, when you team up with people, you can help figure out how to avoid mistakes that others made. These jewels and the tools have to go together. I created a graphic for the show the other day, and I was looking for diamonds or jewels, and I was looking for, like, I was gonna get like a tool chest, and it was gonna be like a split screen. And then I got to thinking about it. I said, when I think about jewels, let me just put the diamonds out there. For so many reasons, the diamonds are there. They remind me of Mother Africa and the sacrifices that my ancestors, my people, my current people are dealing with just to mine them. But I also think about how when you pull a rough diamond out of the ground or find it on the ground, it doesn't look like the diamond in your ring or your teeth or your necklace or your wrist or your watch or your ears, whatever those people, your Prince Albert, whatever, wherever you got diamonds, he's still so. Whatever the case is, they didn't come out of the ground looking like that. When I created that graphic, I found that picture of those beautiful diamonds laying on that table. And I thought about all the work that went into not only finding it, but to get it from a rough diamond to looking so beautiful. Whoever did that and could put those facets, I think that's what they call it. It's been a long time since I've been in the diamond game. I ain't bought a diamond and not on the win. The facets, how to cut the number of carats, how to get so many diamonds out of one rough diamond that you can have, and then have as minimal amount of waste as possible. This is a skill, ladies and gentlemen, and you're doing this for this beautiful thing that will sell at way more than what you paid for it to come out of the ground. I saw the other day where there was this diamond that when I was looking through that stuff and trying to find this thing, there was a diamond, and it was it had a funny name. And then there was a blue diamond, and the blue diamond was like 3.2 million a carat when they sold that diamond. 3.1 million, most expensive diamond sold. I've had shows where I put the Hope diamond up and all that, and the expensive diamonds that you see, the Cullinan diamond. Remember that, y'all, on the show? I had the Cullinan diamond. That was the most expensive one. But this blue diamond, right? $3.1 million a carat. It must have been something to see coming out of the ground. It must have also been something to see them, whatever they call the diamond guys, the jewelers, stoners. I don't know what you call the people that cut diamonds, the De Beers, right? I know that's the name of the diamond people. But whatever the case, it must have been something to see them chisel out that for that rough stone to this beautiful diamond that sold for all that money. You can't tell me that you can't learn how to master what it is that you're doing. I was a Toastmaster. I am a Toastmaster. I'm not as in practice as I used to be. My speech, as you can tell, has really taken a toll and downtrodden my words. Sometimes I'm saying ums and ahs, and that really gets on my nerves. And if I put an extra and and ah, trust me, I know it's there. But it really, really trained me to be better at something I've been doing all my life, and that's speaking, running my mouth. With that training, and I really grew as a person. And every time I find myself in a situation where I'm being prepared, I enjoy it. I enjoy working at a school with watching other young people, I say other young people, get prepared for life, but knowing that they have no idea what they're about to encounter. You hope that they're ready, but there's things that life just has to show you. If you're around the right people, it'll be a whole lot easier for people to be able to tell you, hey, look, when you get down that road, it's going to look like you're going to go left, but you already get prepared to turn right. And that might keep you from an accident. It also might keep you from going in the wrong direction. Whatever the case is, it requires you getting another knowledge that somebody has to tell you. And when you get that, you're dealing with something that's so powerful that it's hard to break through to it because you just don't know until you know. And when I learned how to hold the nail and swing the hammer from my dad, I had a poem about how my dad, it was called One Smooth Stroke. It was just what you would imagine when you say one smooth stroke. But things I learned from my dad, and one of them was how to hold that nail and how to look at the head of that nail. And it was also, something my auntie taught me, my Aunt Pearldine Shannon, of looking at the front of the rim when you're shooting free throws or you got a jump shot. You don't look at the backboard. You don't look at the other thing. You look at the front. You look at the rim that you can see. And when you shoot your shot, you shooting for the rim that's right in front of you, right? You got to look at the front of the rim to hit the shot. Now, I might have given y'all too much game right there, but that's good coaching. When you hitting free throws, the way you hit free throws, you focus on the front of the rim. And you just put it there. This is going to go off in there. If you're looking left, right, I'm thinking your muscle memory, because you just throw it up there, it's going to go in. Unless you're an NBA superstar, you're not doing that many repetitions. You're right, Mark, because you ain't got no shot. You got a heck of an air ball. But the point is, y'all, you got all these jewels, right, and no tools. You got to learn to be applicable. You got to learn to put what you know into play. And when you put it into play the right way with the right people around you, you're going to be more efficient. You're going to be able to go further. You're going to be able to say, okay, not only do we know something, but we're doing something. And then when you put those together, you can recreate it. And that's the genius. I give y'all all the game every week. I had some people this week that I used to be close to showed a raw, naked hide. And I said, you know what? I always knew there was something about you. I always knew it was something about you. And I cussed their ass out. But then after I cussed them out, I was like, you know what? I wasted my time. I shouldn't even let them know that I already seen how jacked up they were and are. And I really shouldn't even fool with them, none of them anymore. It ain't like the world gonna come to an end. A lot of times you just see people will have a discussion, but I'm usually in a discussion where it's gonna either make somebody in the room better and we'll be able to do something better, or it's gonna make me better and I'm gonna be able to do something with what I learned. Okay? But I ain't gotta get that from everywhere. You know, it's gonna come natural where it comes from. So that was definitely. I wish I had time to talk about it, but it was overall a negative experience, and I don't really want to dwell on it. You know, it didn't. I was sitting right there in the same moment I saw my temperature rise. I was like, oh, like I had gas and I let it go. You know how you've been holding it and you had to go to a place to let it go and you let it go. Oh, wait, it was a wonderful thing. Wonderful thing. So when you have the world at your fingertips, like we do nowadays, you need to take every advantage of it and make sure that when you're with your people, when you're using your head and you are accurately and efficiently utilizing your tools, you're going to have a successful future. You cannot forget how to make what you're learning useful for others. And that being able to recreate it because you know what you're doing and you know how to do it and you know how to do it again and again and again and again. That is your gift and your talent making a way for you. Everything else is nonsense. We got a lot of creature comforts around us. And sometimes if we don't have that creature comfort no more, our head blows up. I know one cat, he had this Cadillac, right? And his Cadillac got wrecked. And he was never the same individual because he put everything into that Cadillac he had. I mean, he loved that car. And that car was like his signature. And he could not reinvent himself. So he just, I remember one dude, oh man, he's still alive. He was back when I went to college at, and we used to call him this name. I ain't gonna call his name, but it was kind of derogatory, right? But this dude went on to be successful at using what he had and what we talked about him for as a springboard. It was crazy that you go back and you're like, this dude here is actually successful doing this, and I never thought he would. Many people start putting what they know and what they have to work for them. I'm hoping one day what I got going on is going to work for me and give me a breakthrough, and hopefully not a breakout. You know, that's the show, y'all. You can't just have all the jewels and no tools. And all of what it takes is about making those things I just told you about work together. And that's the jewels and the tools, the people around you to show you how to use them better. And then you all recreating that again so that other people can be successful and you can be successful in making other people successful. I want to give a shout out to everybody on Facebook, everybody on IG, everybody on Twitter and LinkedIn. And I don't know if that Twitch thing is working. It's supposed to be, but I don't know if the Twitch thing is working. Gumbo! The Gumbo Talk Show. And big shout out to the Press Box Media Group for the studio. And then, hey, if y'all want to get y'all selves in the studio, they got studio time for you too. Gumbo! Press Box Media Group. Y'all got anything else to say? No, nothing? Yeah, you shut the fuck. Yeah, you got anything? Oh, no, okay. Let me sign it out, y'all.